Okay, question 2. So question 2 comes from an Examcraft mock paper from 2019. So the question says, Bright Light Limited manufactures light bulbs. The lifespan of their bulbs is normally distributed. Okay, that's not really relevant for what we've done so far. I've just adapted this question to suit us. So the lifespan in hours of a random sample of 20 bulbs was tested and the following data was recorded. So we're given the lifespan in hours for these 20 random bulbs from this company. The first question says to calculate the mean lifespan for a bulb in the sample. So we have to remember that the mean is the one where we add up, we count how many we have, and we divide. So to work out the mean, we have to add them all up first, and if we do that, we should get 240,000. For counting, we count how many bulbs were tested. We're told in the question it was 20 bulbs. So we take our 240,000, we divide by 20, and we get our answer. And our answer should be 12,000. 12,000 was the mean lifespan for a bulb in this range. And again, just highlighting our answer here, just to make it really clear for an examiner what our answer is. Looking at part 2, we're asked to calculate the range of the dataset. So to calculate the range of the dataset, we have to take the largest value, so the largest value, and then we need to take away the smallest value. So it's the difference between the largest and the smallest value. So we have to look at our dataset and work out what the smallest value there is. And from looking at it, we should be able to see that the smallest value is going to be 9,900. Now, having done that, we need to look for what the largest value is going to be. And again, it should jump out at us there that the largest value is 14,000. So putting those together, largest value 14,000, smallest value 9,900. And into your calculator, you can type in those two answers, subtract them, and get your answer overall for your range. So your range should be 4,100. And we can box that. So 4,100 hours is the range in lifespan, the difference between the largest and the smallest value. So our next part asks us to calculate the standard deviation for the sample of light bulbs correct to the nearest hour. So in order to do this, we can go straight to our calculator and use our calculator work to find the standard deviation. So we need to make sure that we know all the steps involved with getting the standard deviation. So to do this, make sure you look back at the notes for finding your standard deviation. So I'm taking my calculator work and I'm going to input my values for this. So I start off with adding all my values into my table, and I'm leaving the frequency as 1 because for this question I don't have any other frequencies that I need to worry about. So I can just leave the frequency option as 1. It's not going to affect my answer adversely. So I'll still be able to get the correct answer doing that. But it's just making sure that you know all the steps involved in working out the standard deviation, and that given a question, you would be able to do it yourself. So given a question in a test, you can work out what it is. It's an important one to know, and it's one that you will not need to know without using your calculator. So long as you can do it with your calculator, you're fine. But it is just about making sure that you do know how to do it. So having inputted my values, I can double check my answer for the mean, which comes up as my first option, and the answer I get there is 12,000. And then looking further down, I can see the value that I have for the standard deviation. So we remember the symbol for standard deviation looks like a circle with the x beside it. So in case we've forgotten, it's the symbol like this. And from reading off our calculator, we can see that the standard deviation is 1,093,389,226, and we're told to get it to the nearest hour, so that is approximately 1,093 hours. We are then asked why the standard deviation is a better measure of variability than the range. And we did discuss this in class, that it can depend on the data that you have, and the standard deviation generally works best for data that is close, that isn't as spread out. But it is a good measure because it uses all the data points, all the data. It uses all your data in the calculations. So whereas with the range, we were just getting the largest to the smallest, the standard deviation allows us to use all the data and gives us a measure of how far away from the mean all these data points are. So with a standard deviation of 1093, we're not the worst. Okay. So let's have a look then. Another company, Sullus Bulbs Limited, claims that 85% of their customers prefer their bulbs to Brightlight Limited. A research company was hired to test the company's claim. They decided to survey a random sample of 500 customers. And we are asked to give two methods that the research company could use to carry out the survey. So how could they carry out the survey? So one example might be perhaps an online questionnaire. So that might be an online questionnaire that would be emailed to customers or available online on the website or something like that. And another option we could give would perhaps be a phone interview. And there's many other options that you could come up with. You could do a postal survey. You could survey customers by going to their house and knocking on doors. And working it that way. So there's many different ways that you could do it, so long as you have two methods that are valid and that would work for this question. For the next part, we're asked for one of our methods that we've given to state one advantage and one disadvantage of the sampling method. Okay, so for one of our chosen research methods for carrying out the survey, we have to give one advantage and one disadvantage of the sampling method. So our sampling method, if we look back, is that we're surveying a random sample of 500 customers. So we're surveying a random sample of 500 customers of Sullus Bulbs to see if they prefer Sullus Bulbs to Brightlight Limited. Okay, so the advantage, perhaps we could say, is that it's a random sample. Okay, so if we have to consider one of our research methods. So we can do either the online questionnaire or the phone interview that I've done here. If we say the online questionnaire, what is an advantage in terms of doing a questionnaire of having a random sample of 500 people, where you're going to get a wide range of responses? Okay, because it's a random sample, we should be able to get a wide range of responses. Or reach a lot of people. So a wide range of responses, we can reach a lot of people. They might be more likely to answer. So these are a few sample options. That's a good one there. They might be more likely to answer than a phone one. Okay, the disadvantages of the sampling method in terms of doing an online questionnaire, I would say, is that not everyone will answer. They may be biased. And what I mean by that is if they answer, it may be so if they answer, it may only be because they agree. So what we mean by that is that people might be less likely to answer if they disagree and don't prefer these bulbs. That might make people less likely to answer. So there's a few different answers. The key with these sort of questions is to just make sure that you understand what the question is asking and that you can back up your answers. So if you give a reason, if you give an answer, try and give a reason for it. Try and back it up. Try and follow up your answers. And if you do that, then you'll be able to get the marks. So saying there, for example, that it might be biased, and then following up why it might be biased.